All right, welcome to the Serve Brew, everybody. I'm Tori Townley. I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. You guys are in for a special treat today. I probably say that all the time, but today it's extra special. We have Pastor Tommy Luong from Zoe Church in Los Angeles. Hi, Pastor Tommy.
It's so cool being on. You, Tori, you are a legend. We have so much love and respect for the Servolution crew and what you guys have done. And kind of, I get so jazzed up on, obviously I'm like scrolling through my emails, and whenever I get something from Serve Brew, I'm like, yo, come on, what's going on over there? How can we get inspired? Because I think, this whole thing, real like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, this is just a collective group of people who really want to serve people. And I think that's why we're kind of even on this podcast today. You're making space for people who want to really serve their community well. And so sometimes it's like, where do we start? And I think sometimes it takes an idea and inspiration from watching someone else do it well. And you're like, wow, man, maybe I can do that. And so I'm just so pumped to be on this podcast today. And so, just so excited to be here.
Man, it's such an honor to have you. We love Zoe Church. Pastor Gino loves Pastor Chad and Julia, and you guys are just so, I don't know. I feel like every time I see social media or we have a phone call, I'm just like, there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much energy, and it just touches everything that you guys do, every bit of the culture. And you've been just such an inspiration and encourager, and you just carry that joy. So our listeners, I know we are all so honored just to have y'all on today. But before we get into like some of the philosophy of it, I always got to ask, what's your Starbucks order? Are you a coffee person?
I am a big coffee person, especially moving here to LA. There's a bunch of coffee snobs around here, and I may have fell into that. I do love coffee. One of the coffee drinks that we drink around here is called Blue Bottle. It's great. Phil's Coffee here in LA. If you're ever in the LA area, Phil's is great. But if I'm trying to because I feel like, you drink those types of coffee that I kind of just named off for to be cool, to kind of flow. But if you're looking to get the job done, I'm going to Starbucks. If I'm walking to the office with Starbucks, hey, he's ready to come play today. And so my go-to, I think would be like a Starbucks double shot. They just changed it recently. I don't know why. They changed it to this thing called the shaken espresso. It's all it is just espresso and milk. That's all it is. And so
Doppio, but milk.
That's it. It's the doppio.
Shaken espresso. My husband gets that, so I need to tell him.
You should try it. I would say it's really good. And then my other go-to would just be an Americano with cream. Just too good.
That's classy.
Plain and simple. If I'm traveling with PC, I just tell, and people are asking what coffee you want to drink. I just, I'm not going to be complicated. You don't want to be that guy. Hey, can I get like a frappuccino? Like, who just orders a frappuccino, dude? I mean, come on. So we just say Americano with cream, and we just go from there.
That's so funny. Last episode, I had Dr. Joe and Kelly Carson on, and I don't know if you listened, but her drink is like 3 miles long. So yeah, don't be like Miss Kelly. Be like Pastor Tommy. Let's be low. Love you, Miss Kelly.
That's too good.
So funny. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to tell my husband about that. He's gonna freak out. Okay. Also, one more thing we're gonna talk about is you guys just had a little baby, Levi.
We did. And Levi is such a good boy. He, the last 3-4 weeks, 0 sleep. Now, I am a morning person. My alarm, it goes off at 4 a.m., sometimes 3:45 if I'm feeling for it. But I get up, I try to work out, I try to, do this whole routine. I'm a person of routine. So I'm, kind of just in my flow, but with this addition, he has just wrecked my routine. I remember all my, all the staff are like, he's just gonna, he's gonna destroy you. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna be destroyed by this guy. He's gonna be a part of my routine. Of course, they're right. These last 3-4 weeks, no sleep. However, we just started sleep training him, and today is the second day that he has gotten 5 hours of sleep. So I'm rejoicing in the name of the Lord today.
Yes. Praise the Lord for that. That's so funny. sleep training, you guys. It is magic, according to Pastor Tommy. You have to try that.
It works.
Gosh, I'm so excited for you guys. He is precious. We'll give out social media handles. Y'all can go stalk babies. He's okay, so now that we kind of know a little bit about what's going on, tell us, I don't even know this, but can you give like a quick snapshot of just your story? Like, how did you get to be outreach pastor at Zoe Church? What was your journey leading up to that?
Yeah, I moved to LA 4 years ago. And I remember it was January of 2017. My wife and I had just gotten married in August of 2016. So long story short, I felt that like the strong pull to California. Now I had never really been out there before. And I was kind of involved in some ministry stuff back in Michigan, where I'm originally from, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Shout out 616. But we ended up moving out to California in January 2017. And I was not in pursuit of ministry. I was kind of like, hey, I'm going to put that aside for a little bit. I just want to go after what I feel like, at the time I want to give myself a shot in fashion. So I've always kind of had a little niche for, to be in that fashion world. And so I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And, so coming out to LA 2017, of course, when I move out here, everything that I thought was going to work out did not work out the way I thought it was going to work. And so I remember month 2 of being here. I'm like, oh God, did I make a mistake? I felt like I heard from God, like that I was supposed to come out here. And I look at my wife and I'm like, babe, I'm so sorry. I just feel like I let us down. We're living in Airbnb. Housing was hard. Here I am getting married. And I told her dad like 4 or 5 months ago, I'm going to take care of your daughter. And so I'm like, oh God, the last thing that you want to do is think about your father-in-law and what he's going to say to you when you come back as a failure. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to answer to this guy. But Leah is such a real one. My wife's name is Leah. And she's like, babe, you heard from God. I know you did, because I did too. And so she says, shake it off. We're gonna figure this thing out and we're gonna make it work. She's a real one. And from that day, we just kind of like, we had a week left before we had to move out. Of course, 3 days before we have to move out, we found a landlord that wanted to take a chance on us and give us an opportunity to really, get housing. And so we find a 1-bedroom apartment here in Hollywood. And right after that, that's kind of when I stumbled upon Zoe Church. And we're out grocery shopping one day, and I had met a lady named Athena, who was just she's like a second mom to me when I was out here. And she, of course, is from Oklahoma. So she had the Southern hospitality. She's like, young man, where are you going? And I told her, I said, hey, I'm actually, about to go grocery shopping. She's like, you don't need a grocery shop right now. You need church. And I'm like, wow, this lady's coming off strong. She said, trust me, you can get your food later. And started asking me questions about who I am, what I'm doing here. And so this is the first time I feel like I experienced real community here in LA. And so it kind of like tugged on my heart. I'm like, man, this lady's so special. Now I would have walked out that day. Community, obviously, church was amazing. Pastor Chad crushed it. Worship was off the chart. But the reason why I came back to church was because of that lady. She, kind of was just like wanting to genuinely get to know me and offered me this community that I'm finally feeling for the first time here in LA after like 2 months. So that's kind of how I got started coming to Zoe Church. And after 2 years of like grinding in fashion, I felt God kind of call me back to ministry. And it was on tour. Zoe Worship had gone on tour. It was the very first Be Okay tour. And it was on that tour that Pastor Chad had actually asked me to be on staff. I was kind of overseeing all their merch at that time. So it kind of worked out, I started serving. We had a merch team, we started creating merch. And then all of a sudden, when they asked me to come on tour, it kind of just worked out where I just felt like, I was transitioning back, and I wasn't sure, because originally when I was on that tour, I told my wife, I said, I feel transitioning coming. After 2 years in fashion, I thought a bigger opportunity was going to come, but who would have thought ministry was knocking at the door again? And I know that, there are times where you try to run away from things. You can try to run away, but when you're marked, I think, with how God wants to use you, you can't run away from that stuff. And so it was on that. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, when Pastor Chad had actually asked me to come on staff. And so I spent the last 3 years on Zoe staff. I oversee all of our children's ministry, and then I oversee all of outreach. So anything local, national, global, I'll help oversee.
Whoa, that's a lot. I did not realize you carried that much across the
That was everything in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Oh, it's such a cool story. I love that you said that whole, like, when you're marked, like, you're locked in, like, God,
Yeah.
oh, man, it's so cool. I love how he just finds you, like, he seeks you and he finds you. Athena is such a cool story and just gives
Yeah,
so much encouragement. Like, it may be awkward to go after somebody, but look at how a life can, like, really be impacted by that. That's a
that's
beautiful
it.
story. It's so cool. Okay, so now we kind of got a little snapshot. We love Leah. She's amazing. We know how you got here. Now, if you would give us like a picture of Zoe Church. I think most people listening probably have an idea of what you guys are about, but just kind of let us transport to an average day, average week. Let us know what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, Zoe Church is who is better than Pastor Chad and Julia. They're my heroes. They're some of our greatest friends, but they're our family. But you know what I love about them is that they are the best pastors that I could have asked for. And you know, one thing that I truly love about who they are is that they're just real. They're the what you like being here in LA, you know, you get so it's so polarizing. You know, you think of all these things about people, but Pastor Chad and Julia, they're the most authentic people. And if you're around them, you would know what I'm talking about. They're easy to be around, they're easy to love, they're easy to follow because I mean, I just think that they understand where they're at, they know where they're going. And so just being under their leadership has been it's been a dream. And so Zoe Church, you know, we're here in Los Angeles, and you know, we're going on year 6 here. I obviously I came later, like I think going on year 3 was when I kind of obviously joined the church. And so but you know, I'm walking to something amazing. I think that at Zoe Church, you know, they're so creative. I know we're obviously in such a creative city, but I think, you know, when I see our church, one of the greatest things I think that we have a gift at is our creativity. And there are so many people on staff that are like, and it's the thing that's so annoying sometimes is that they're so creative. It just comes natural to them. I'm like, how? I'm always kind of creeping on the creative team. I'm like, yo, what are you guys working on? Let me be in the end. You're just so cool. But I think it's actually a gift that they have, and it comes natural to them. And I think, you know, in ministry, I think sometimes we're always like, hey, if you're in ministry, you're just got to be ministry type of field. You know, you can't be creative, can't be cool. It's either one or the other. I'm like, I don't know. I think that there's giftings, and one of the lanes that they've just, you know, owned is creativity. And so Zoe Church, when I think about it, they're passionate people. Our communities, you know, we always say the most generous community is Zoe. If you're ever, you know, in LA, come to Zoe and you guys will see what I'm talking about. When you're around people are generous, they're kind, they're giving. And so I think you get this real authentic type of community. And it's kind of like what I was talking about, Athena, how she just got into my world right off the bat. When you meet people at Zoe, you get a sense, man, they actually do care for me. And so Zoe, you know, we work with an incredible staff. You know, those are some of my best friends. It's kind of cool right now. Everyone's kind of, it's like baby season again. And so we're raising up our kids together. And, you know, I think church is one of those things that it's just, you know, we're doing life together. And so, and obviously we get to be one of the greatest cities building church at Los Angeles. So Zoe is honestly a great place.
Yeah, it's obviously a great place. I love that it means life because as you're talking, like I didn't even think about it, but I was like, man, it's just like there's life everywhere. And I was like, oh wait, Zoe actually means life. It makes so much sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think, yes, the creative culture is like so evident and it just breathes. Like you just feel it and you feel inspiration. It feels fresh. Like anytime I'm too dorky to interview these people. Like they are just so cool and so cutting edge, but at the same time, it's so inspiring. I've been reading a lot about the importance of creativity and how like that is part of God's heart to let us co-labor with him and not just take orders, but like bring in the design that he made us to have. Like we have to contribute, and it's such an honor to get to do that. So, all of that, this culture of creativity and this life-giving like atmosphere you guys have, could you talk about how that breeds into or bleeds into how you guys do outreach, how you serve your community? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. You know, I think one of the things that we've just kind of owned is just knowing who we are. I think sometimes when you don't understand, where you're going, where you'll say yes to everything. We just know where we're good at. We know the kind of gift that God has kind of put up, that mandated our church to do. So, if you don't know kind of where you're going, you're just going to say yes to everything. But because we know where we're going, we're like, all right, this kind of fits our lane. This is kind of how we do what we do. And so, but we're also open to growing. I think, even for outreach sake, I think there's so many different things going on here in LA. And but we also know, like, hey, we're a growing church as well. And as we continue to, be here in the city, we don't want to just be these guys that are like saying, hey, we're only committing to this, right? We know that there's heroes here in our own city. For example, the LA Dream Center, Pastor Matthew Barnett are some of our heroes. They're the greatest people on earth. And I remember just to get into, one of the programs that we started last year that didn't happen prior to COVID. Right when COVID started, I remember we were like kind of trying to identify, like, how do we really help outside of doing our monthly outreaches? And Pastor Chad and I were just kind of talking, and we're like, you know what, we're just going to go down to the LA Dream Center and we're just going to serve. We just need to do something. We got to serve. And so we were down there, and of course they were kind of doing their food, their food drive and their food lanes. And these guys were doing it Monday. I want to say they were doing it Monday through Sunday. There was no days off. And hundreds and thousands of people would come to this line. And we left that day, and we were so challenged by it. And we're just like, what do we do from here? How can we do this here in our area? And so I remember Pastor Chad and I were talking. We're just like, you know what? Let's just get food together. We don't know how to do it, but what we do have, we will give. And so we just got our church on board to, really give into this thing. And so we had, like, I think 9 people. We gathered together. We went to the local food store, bought all this food. And then we just started, doing a food drive. We're saying, we just kind of announced to the church, hey, if you know anybody who needs food during this time, come by. And I remember that first week, we had like 15 cars come through, and we're like, what, this is crazy. People would show up for this. And obviously, doing it consistently, because, we're not always looking for God to open up the clouds and like 10,000 people show up. I think it's just the consistency of being here for your community. And I think over time, you see the miracle happen, right? Pastor Chad always says God will perform the miracle. It's our job to do the stewardship. And so, I think, so reflecting on the last 14, 16 months, last year, we're able to see 40,000 people. We're just able to serve just because of us saying yes to just trying to make it happen. And of course, this thing grew over time, and we've added so many other pieces to this program, but it all started with just the idea of like, hey, how do we help our city?
That's so cool. For those of you who are listening, you'll probably remember the Gospel and Groceries guide that Pastor Tommy gave to us during COVID. That was just like such a blessing, and it was so inspiring just to see how you guys, like you said, you jumped in, but the consistency factor, I can testify to. Like, there's nothing like being able to see some of the same faces like over and over and just realize, like, oh wow, that person wasn't open to this last Tuesday, but today they smiled, today they let me pray with them. And that's like, to me, that's how life change happens. So that consistency value is huge. I love that. You did touch on this a second ago, but just like, I think about how diverse and how big LA is, how many needs there are. There are people of all walks of life, all different kinds of stories. And you said it's important to like know your lane and know this is what we're going to focus on, but also being open. How do you, like, let's say you're in a drawing board situation, you guys have some ideas. How do you vet through what are we going to say yes to? What are we going to say no to? Where are your variables, and what are your kind of like, these are set in stone kind of factors? Does that make sense? Kind of
Yeah,
what
of course.
you, yeah.
Yeah, I think that really, you gotta, like, LA has different needs than maybe Baton Rouge would have. And so I think identifying, where you're at, kind of your gift mix, and this is where you have to be comfortable in your own skin, right? I think oftentimes when we get insecure, we're like, oh, what are they doing? And what are they doing? Oh, we got to match. I don't know if it's like that. I think it's all just understanding, all right, what are the needs of the city? Because we don't want to be culturally deaf tone to what is happening in our city, right? You want to just continue to feel the heartbeat of the city, know what the need is. And so like, obviously one of the biggest things here in LA is homelessness. And so we go, we bring, instead of like allowing the people to come to us, we just kind of go right into the heart of things, and we serve people who are homeless. We provide food, clothing, all of it, right? And so I think, culturally wise, we do serve like a big Latin community as well. And so last year, I remember like month 6 in doing this, we're like, wow, we actually have a large, community of, Hispanic people that come to, through this food drive, right? And so we're like, all right, well, how are we serving those guys? And so we started a Spanish service out of that. And so, so it's just those things that you got to be aware. Like you can't have this agenda and not be flexible enough to serve the people that are here in your city. And so I just think we're comfortable in our skin. Like I said, we're here to serve. And so we're just willing to meet the needs, and whoever shows up, we're going to figure it out. And again, we don't have this thing like perfected, and have all the answers, but what we are committed to is finding a solution to the problem. And so, and there's so many people here in our city, and I remember you're kind of touching on partnership and, talking about all that stuff here, at Zoe, we're not just, like, oh, this is our thing. We're only going to work with our crew. No, you guys, we are called to like minister to all people and evangelize to all people. We're going to take care of widows. We're going to take care of orphans, and everyone has a responsibility. And something I always remind our team is that, we don't serve people because we're Christians. We serve our city because this is our home. And if your home is dirty, if your home needs, repair, guess what? You're going to take care of it. And so, and it doesn't take me to be a believer to take care of my home. Like everyone realizes if your home is broken, you're going to need to fix that thing, or it's going to die. It's going to tear down. And so we all have a part to play here in the city. So, we partner with so many local organizations for that reason. We know that, obviously we know where our strengths are, and we know where other organizations, where their strengths are. And we're like, hey, we're willing to let's collab, and let's figure this thing out, and let's take care of our city.
Good. It's so good. I love that you jumped into partnerships, because that is a big question that I feel like I get asked a lot. Is just for some, it can be pretty daunting. Like, how do I jump in and figure out who to partner with, how to even strike up a conversation? And then, like, I would imagine in LA, there's probably quite a few opportunities for partnerships. So, how
Yeah.
do you guys vet through what are we going to commit to? What are we going to say yes to? Like, are there things that have to line up with your vision, or how do you kind of like navigate that world? You guys have quite a few partnerships from what I've seen. So, how
Yeah.
do you manage all this?
We always like every single, our church kind of flows in seasons. So, we have 3 seasons a year, and every year, we just, we always kind of table all of our partners, making sure that everything is, obviously in alignment, according to kind of what we believe, and so I think for partnership wise, there are so many different organizations that are obviously so phenomenal, and we want to obviously say yes to a lot of them, but it doesn't always, maybe fit in the right timing. And so I think, again, it's understanding what do you want to do? Who are you? What do you want to serve? What are we going to commit to for this season? What does our church believe? And I think it all has to come back down from, from vision. And obviously we serve some best pastors in the world who have an incredible vision. They lay out the map, and then they give me the freedom to say, hey, in these lanes, here, find the right partners that will fit this, find the right partners that will fit this. And you know what? And sometimes, it's the greatest things, and sometimes it doesn't always necessarily work out, but we're so, we're not, again, our team is so flexible in doing that we just kind of sort it, I think, in that way. And I think also, you can't do this thing alone. If you're an organization and you're looking to do some incredible work, I think it takes relying on each other. Zoe Church, they're so incredible at so many different things, but one of the things I love that we do is to be able to like, hey, how do we partner with the people here in this city? And how do we partner with our local partners here in LA that has been the heroes of this? It's like Pastor Matt and the Dream Center. They've been doing this thing for, I think, 30 plus years. They know what they're doing. It would be foolish for us to say, how can we not come alongside you and serve you? you know? And so again, and I think that comes back to like security, and just knowing like, hey, we're not here to make our name great. We're here to make one name great, and that's God, and that's Jesus, right? And so Zoe is not looking to be the hero of the city. We're just here to like serve people. And so yeah.
You have such a gift. Like this whole like idea of the security and being comfortable in your own skin, I feel like is going to really resonate with a lot of people. It's resonating with me, and just like God's been showing me a lot of just take up your space in my kingdom. Like I gave you a role and I gave you a name and I gave you an identity, and you're not supposed to like tiptoe around that. Like that's not, it's humble to be able to say I am God's child. I am here. I am taking up my space, and I feel like that just exudes from you guys. Like there's just such an ease, I guess, that comes with it. I know
Yeah.
it's not easy, but I feel like there's a spirit of like just peace and knowing who you belong to, and you're gonna bite off the biggest chunk you can because it belongs to you. And that's so encouraging to me. And I feel like our listeners are really just gonna feel just like maybe some release of pressure
Yeah.
to like make it look like something else. So thank you for just sharing that. And I wanted to note too, this is kind of off topic, but just in the conversations you and I have had, I've been so blown away by just like the eagerness to learn that you have. Like you are just, you're always curious and you're asking questions, and you seem to just be like exploring what are the options, what's out there, who's doing what. And it just, I think that that is a gift too, that just, it's just cool to see someone who asks questions. And for me, I get nervous. I'm like, I don't want to ask the wrong question. I don't know who to talk to, but you're just like, what's up? Like, tell me how things are going. And I think maybe you could speak to just encouraging our guys in how to ask those questions, like how to lean into others. I think that's it's a
Yeah.
important
Yeah,
piece.
and it's again, it's that thing. It's like I don't ever want to be that person that knows it all and miss out on like some of like the greatest people around you. A lot of the One of the things that we always say at Zoe Church, and Pastor Chad kind of mentioned it today at our staff devos, is he said the miracle is in the house. The miracle is around you. And I think sometimes when we're so like focused on agenda and oh we're this, we're that, and we got it figured out, you miss like the partnerships and the miracle that's even in your city. God wants to do so many great things, but he doesn't want you to do it alone. And so, I think, and that's why I feel like I can, I think it's just kind of something that I've kind of understood is just having this ability to be able to like learn. I don't ever want to do this whole thing and think that I've arrived to like a place where I'm not ready to like learn anymore. And so of course, that's why I'm always like, just, hey, Dory, tell me what you guys are doing, like what's happening, and your emails. And I'm like, oh man, and sometimes, it releases like, this creativity in you to really like, oh wow, and it kind of like, it kind of hits, and so I just think when people are feeling the pressure to like perform, it's based on you. But if you're really trusting God, well, then the pressure is off of you. It's, it's what he's going to do around you. And there's no pressure for you to perform. You get to rely on people. Listen, I'm not that gifted, but I know that there are people around me that have the ability to help me, co-labor in this whole thing. And so, of course, I'm going to try to tap into that freedom and realize, hey, I don't have to, carry this whole thing by myself. It's way too heavy for you. And that's why people are probably feeling the burden of it. Ministry is supposed to be easy. It's not supposed, you know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be light, right? You're supposed to have grace. The wind of heaven's on your back. If God is going to do it, some in you, well, guess what? He's gonna continue to provide the resources around you. So there's no need to, focus on just you. Hey, we're gonna rely on everyone else around us and our strength, and we're gonna figure this out together.
So good, dude. Yeah, I think there is such a that thing that you touched on of just like the awareness, like you have not gotten tunnel vision because you're aware of like I am in the body of Christ and each part is vital, and I don't want to miss how essential each person is. And that to me is what an outreach director, especially like all of us, but especially in outreach, to be able to like look at those around us and say, what can I help unlock in them? And what are they unlocking in me? There is greatness. So for you to be able to do that, there's just such an anointing, and there's no room for hustle in all of it. Like, as much as hustle is a thing, I love to tell our leaders all the time, like, there's really no room for that. There's room for the spirit to move at his pace, and you don't want to get zoned in. So I can see that's how you guys move, and it's so special. Okay, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, and I want to jump into like some specific ideas. What are some of your favorite outreaches you guys have done? I know we talked about gospel and groceries, but maybe pick like 2 or 3 of your favorite, funnest outreaches. Give us.
Yeah, we're actually just about to launch something really cool here for mothers. We're going to do a project called May is for Mothers. And so, obviously here in our community, we're kind of focused on, each month we're kind of like just trying to revamp our systems, and making sure that whatever we're doing, it just makes sense. Again, I was raised up by a single mom. And so, of course, this is like so big for me. I think about my mom, and if she would have had the community that I have now, how supported she would have felt. And I think, we wanted to like create like a space of, on May 8th here, we're going to do a thing called May is for Mothers. And it's just all outreaches that day will be specifically geared towards moms and single moms who, and so we want them to get pampered. We want to serve them. And it's like, and oftentimes, we're like, oh, well, how do we do that? I don't know, but I know we have a space. I know we have professionals here in our city that would be willing to give up their times. It's like you have to look at like the stuff that you have and just kind of work with it, And so one of the things that we're going to do is that we're going to turn our ministry center into like a beautification center, like Pampered. And so we're gonna invite all the single moms here in the area, and they're gonna just have a day where they're gonna get they're gonna give spa, all that stuff. And so we're just gonna be able to celebrate moms. And so that's kind of a fun one we do. And then also there's so many different outreaches, that we've kind of done, but I would say that one's really one exciting, gospel and groceries obviously would be another killer thing that we're doing. And then one of the things I'm really I'm excited about is missions. Obviously we do serve local, we do serve national, and but we're also about to tap into all of our global missions. And we do send resources out into our global partners. But one of the things that I love doing, I've been telling Pastor Chad I'm excited about, is really releasing our church into global missions. And so that is kind of another project that we're about to really launch later this fall. But so many heroes here in our church that has helped us create ideas and projects. Like just last month, Earth Day was in April, or this month, sorry. And so this month we partnered with all these community gardens here in LA. Of course, yeah, LA. Who would have thought gardens here in LA? I didn't. But there's a gal that was super excited about like Earth, and she just like wants to protect our city. And so we just did like a lot of the locations kind of just geared towards just to promote Earth Day. We decided to do like a big local community gardens, and so we helped create one, cleaned it up, build it, and so that was kind of fun. So so many different projects here in LA, but at Zoe Church, but those would probably be my few that I'm excited about.
I love it. Y'all exude just fun and excitement, and it's so cool. Okay, this may be like backtracking a little, but I just want to like get behind the scenes of y'all's head, your heads. I don't know. Like, what does a brainstorm situation look like? Like, you're looking at the summers coming up. What is your process of planning? Do you just sit down? Like, I used to just sit down like a blank calendar, and we'd be like, all right, let's throw out all the ideas we can. Is it like a staff your team talks to together, or how do you guys like just make your plan? I want to be drawing board.
So every so often I obviously meet with Pastor Chad and Julia and our team, and we're kind of just like, hey, all right, what makes sense? What are we doing right now still? That kind of how do we continue to engage? We always reflect back onto the mission of what, of our church, and seeing if it just makes sense. Obviously, again, it just goes back to that, what are your yeses? What are your nos? Of course, there's a billion things that you can do here in LA, but what are the lanes that we know we're gonna focus on? And so once I kind of get that clarity of, the mission again, I kind of sit down with our I Love My City Zoe Cares team. And so like tonight will be a night that they come over and we'll focus on for the rest of, the summer projects. And so they're just coming into my home. We're gonna have Thai food tonight, and we're gonna talk about how do we serve our city, and kind of some fun projects. And one of those projects that we would be working on tonight would be May is for Mothers. And so so it's just giving the again, my job is not to like perform. My job is to gather our people here in this community, and how do we serve our people well. And I can only see, so much of like where we're headed. And so, but I know that if I'm gonna continue to help serve the city, I gotta have some people behind me to serve with me. So our Zoe Cares team have been so phenomenal. And a lot of these guys, they're not like on staff, but technically, like they serve enough to be like, you are part of the crew for sure. And so, these guys, they're so passionate, and it's the whole idea of just releasing, people on your team to really have the creativity to bring their ideas to the table. Because at the end of the day, there's no bad idea, right? There's just, what, we're going to hear everybody out. How does this make sense to the vision? Does it fit? And all right, if it does fit, all right, now let's get this idea going. And so that's kind of how we will table out, our projects. And so, and once we have that, we'll visit every single week and saying, all right, here's where we're at, and all the fun stuff happens. And so that's kind of how I would say, we're kind of, tabling all of our ideas right now, and kind of how we're coming up with our projects.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what I kind of wanted you to paint a picture of, because I think it's there's definitely kind of a balance between, all right, the church is planning it, everybody show up and we're just going to run the play. And then there's the opposite side where it's like, everybody just come up with your own thing, have fun, we love you. But I think there's such an importance of knowing how to balance those two components. And
Right.
sometimes that can be hard. Like I had a call with somebody today who was just kind of like trying to know the balance between those two things. I don't want to be in charge and carry all of it, but I can't just like say go out on your own. So to hear how you guys kind of just like, you create this sacred space and this covering, and you're personally there to listen and to say, hey, here's a play, but like let's fill in the blanks together. And I think that is kind of that harmony of, you're getting to shine and take ownership as a team, but you're also covered and you're safe, and we're all in one accord and have that unity. So that's brilliant. I'm gonna come crash a party because I love Thai food more than the world.
Come
So
on, come on over. There's always room.
I'm gonna catch a flight. I will be there possibly tonight. I might make it. That's so cool. I love it. Okay, couple more questions if you don't mind, if you're cool.
Nope, not at all. Come on.
Today. Okay, tell us, you've given so much wisdom and so much just in your head inspiration, but if you had to give like our people a word of advice, like a philosophy that you hold on to, just kind of like your why behind things, if there's any more, because you've definitely shared a lot of potent things that we're going to chew on, but any other like philosophies or things people should be thinking about?
Yeah, obviously, like I do, like oversee all of our outreach, but at the end of the day, you always just remind our team, hey, like beyond the numbers, beyond all of our projects, why do we do what we do? It's because we actually are just called to people. The moment that I think you lose sight of, you know, the people, and you're so focused on, obviously we want to get great at programming, we want to get great at systems, we want to get great at producing numbers, and and making sure that it all works. But I think the heart behind all of that, the heart behind excellence, is people. And so I think when that kind of fades and you're just focused on one side, I think it becomes more of a job. And I think that's how so many people probably give up. So many people probably get tired. So many people are like, yo, I'm good. I think the longevity of this whole thing is that if you continue to keep the main reason, well, then I think you'll go for a long time. And so every single person on our team who will be coming over tonight, if you ask them, why they do what they do, they'll just tell you it's because of the people. We've seen so many people, even in the last year and a half just through COVID, come to Jesus because of just us providing food. And we weren't like, obviously the goal is for people to come into a relationship with Jesus, and we want to see people saved. But I think, we all have a responsibility in taking care of our home, our city. And we're like, whoever shows up, and we're not saying that you have to have X amount of this, and you have to believe in this to get our food. No, just come as you are. And I think that was speaking itself. People like wonder when we started this whole thing, well, what's the motive behind this? There's so many stories I could tell you right now, like that are coming to my mind. That's like, there's so many people that are so skeptical. Oh, church is putting this on. You want me to come to your church, huh? No, we just want you to get food. We want you to just to be full. Everyone deserves food. Everyone deserves to feel, like what we feel. And so, I think, with all that said, I think, we're just trying to keep us, we're trying to keep our community just remembering, hey, don't lose sight of people. Don't lose sight of the why. And if you ever get tired, and if you ever get, weary about doing good things, just reflect on why you started this in the first place. Well, I committed to loving people, loving God. So guess what? If I continue to keep that the center of focus, well, then, I think that will continue to give me the peace, the joy. And again, it will shift the performance side away. You won't have to focus on performing. You'll just focus on, hey, I get to do this because I love people. And so, yeah.
It was so pure. It was so pure. And again, it just brings you back to like the simplicity of the spirit. Like his burden is easy. Like it's such an honor just to get to love people. I love that. I have a tattoo that says people to remind me
I
it is
love it.
people. So I'm so on board with this. That's everything. That's why we're on earth, is because people are out there who need to know Jesus. That's, to me, that's it. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic, dude. Okay. I want to know, what are you dreaming right now? Like, can you let us a little bit behind the scenes of your heart? I don't know if you have like things that we can't know about. I know others is a dream, but is there anything like, I love to ask this question because first of all, it kind of demonstrates just like how important it is to have vision for our community, but also so that our listeners, we can be like supporting you guys and praying as well on like what's on the horizon. So it's kind of a twofold thing.
Yeah. I think it's just our dream to, of course we would love to, Zoe, I think it would be so cool to see thousands and thousands of people come through our organization, and not only just being able to get food and to go through our programs, but really, believing in just what we're doing. That's just to really serve and be an example to people here in our community. LA, people that come through our church, they're so skeptical, I would say, because of maybe church past experiences, what they believe. And they're like, yo, LA, and you don't always get the, I think, so I'm from the Midwest, right? People love church. They come, it's a Sunday morning, it's what they do. Here in LA, people don't come to just church, you got to be intentional about coming. And so when people do come, it's like they're, they come into this experience. And I think, so when you say, what is our dream? Our dream is just, I believe that like miracles don't just happen, like they can happen overnight, but it's the consistency of people showing up every single day, doing what they know. And, they're convicted by this person, by this idea, and it's just Jesus, right? If I have this deep conviction to really see our city changed. And right now, I know that LA, people, when you say Los Angeles, people think about, Hollywood, and they think about all this crazy thing that LA has to offer. But I really do believe that there will come a day where, we will be like a city that will be known for their love for Jesus. And so, I think, there's so much there that you can kind of, talk about, but I just think it's through just committing and showing up every day to see this dream come to pass. We want to see people saved, leaders made, disciples raised, and the church released, and all these things, right? And so I think we want, and I think all that comes by just being consistent every day. And the dream is to just continue to be here. Zoe Church, we're not looking to just, this little hoorah moment and just go and take the city by force. Hey, we're just gonna say, hey, we're gonna serve our city one day at a time. And Pastor Chad and Julia, man, they have so much vision. And so we're going to see that vision come to pass. And so I'm just dreaming for a day where, the church here in LA will continue to rise, and, the city will be known for, their love for God.
Beautiful. You painted a beautiful picture. It's amazing. I'm with you, and we will be praying for that for the city of LA. It's huge. I love that. Okay. Can you share a quick story, like a favorite? I don't know if you have a favorite story, or just somebody whose life you touched or touched you. I know you shared the one in the grocery store. That was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
any ones?
Yes. There, just through this last year and a half, we serve, one of our local partners here is an elementary school it's not too far away from us. They're kind of in mid city, which is like 15, 20 minutes away. And there is a teacher, or she's like their community outreach director as well. And great lady, loves her community. And through her, we actually met the principal, right? And Principal Sean Leva is one of my heroes. And I remember when we started, this is, I think, sorry, there's two stories. I'm crossing. I'm like, where am I going with this? There's two stories. So first story, last year and a half ago, we met this lady who was working at the school. So when COVID happened, no one really knew what to do. They were just told to, hey, pack up and you're gonna have to work from home. And now they just, after a year and a half, they just got back into their school. They hadn't seen all these kids, but yet I think so many people were so wrecked by all of it. And now this lady hadn't really been to church like in a crazy long time, but she saw kind of just Zoe and some of the, the legends that have stepped up during this time. And I remember one of our team leads from our team was just so committed to them and to their family. And through just this last year and a half, through the consistency of just showing up every day, every Wednesday, we kind of create like almost like 100 like food like bags for them, and their teachers come and we kind of help deliver to their community. And so, and just by doing that every single week, she's given, church a shot again, and she's given, church a chance. It's like, you see people like that who may have never, I don't know when she would have had, her time with church and with God again, but I just think because we were so consistent and she's showing up and, just loving her where she was at, she is now coming to church. She's now watching online. And so I just think it's amazing, And the other thing I kind of remember, if, just thinking back about this whole thing, Principal Sean Leva is one of my favorite people. He is the principal of the school. Yet he's one of the coolest guys I know. He's like, so, he has like this, I'm a sucker for fashion still. He relates to the Jordans, all that, right? I'm like, I love all that stuff. And so, but he was reminding me, he was like, hey man, I just, there was a time where we were kind of like figuring out how we're going to do what we're going to do, and how do we go about, everything that we're going about, obviously we wanted to serve people, but at some point you're just like, oh gosh, what if I run out of fresh ideas? How do we continue to provide? What if we run out of this? And what if we run out of that? And he just reminded me, he's like, hey bro, he said, when I was about to give up, I remember remembering some of the people from your church that just showed up for us when we didn't have nowhere to go. He said, our teachers were scared. We didn't know what to do. And yet your church just decided to show up for us. And he said, bro, because of that, he said, I've stuck to like my guns, and I'm just going to figure it out. He said, you guys are so committed to the solution and just trying to be there. And so he said, and that caused our staff to do the same thing. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to just stick it out and we're going to figure this out together. And so I think, if there are a few stories that I kind of, recall on, it would be something like that, that continues to be inspiring to me. Inspiration doesn't have to come from this crazy leader or crazy pastor, all these things. Inspiration can be found here in your community, from the people around you. And I think, so I was very encouraged by that. It kind of gave me like a second wind, when I was kind of getting tired. I'm like, man, I don't know how long this will last. He reminded me of that story and kind of gave me, that second wind again to keep running.
It's so beautiful, man. I love that so much. It's so important to like have those moments. I love that God does that and he knows just when you need it to. So
Yeah.
to remember that. Okay, two more questions. These are kind of like the routine ones, but they're my favorite. Recommend something for us. Book, podcast, sermon, what you got. It could be shoes. It could be a cool pair of shoes you want us to get. I don't know. Whatever.
Two of the books that I feel like has been, when I get on a plane, I'm trying to like read books more, like just more books for me. I don't want to be that person. It's like, hey, I'm a book reader. I'm going to read like 30 books a year. I don't do that. But when I want to become, in order to obviously to keep learning, you just got to know what's out there. And so one of the two books that I've read recently, it's a book by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. Great book if you are a person who is looking for routine, who's looking for better habits. I think that is such a great book. He just talks about this idea of like it's kind of what I've been talking about, just showing up, right? It's this consistency of small habits that will produce. We're kind of living in a world right now where people want to see instant results, quick things. And so he kind of breaks this whole idea down of just, if you commit to the small consistency of making daily habits, and it's not that you have to make these crazy choices, just do the small things. Do the small things every day in your life, and you will see, and so he shifts your mind to really thinking about the long term, that eventually everything that you're doing will produce fruit. And then Pastor Chad's book, Help I Work with People, has been one of my favorites as well. You guys, listen, he's an incredible person. He's an incredible pastor. He preaches it so well. But one of my favorite things that he does is he teaches staff devotions. And I think, the treat to me, because I've heard him, preach a lot, but I love our staff devotion when he teaches us. And so he's equipped our team. And I think a lot of the, if you are in church or in business or in whatever field, you're going to work with people. And if you want to continue to change the world, you better start getting good at like working with people, learning how to communicate. And so I would recommend one of those two books right now. If you want to continue to develop your ability to continue to work with people, I would say one of those two books.
Huge. I love it. We will link to that in the show notes to both of those books. That's fantastic. And thank you for recommending that. And Pastor Chad's emails too. Like, I don't know when I signed up for it, but he sends like daily, weekly,
Oh
some
yeah.
really encouraging. So sign up for those. Last question is just how can people follow you? Zoe Church, Pastor Tommy.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a church account, Zoe Church LA, where if you type it in, we'll pop up. Zoe Church is always, their social media game's insane. I love our creative team. My personal account is just Tommy_Luong, Luong. And you can follow me there. But, I think I just love meeting new people. And if you're ever in LA, you got to stop by the church. I will meet you. Whoever is listening right now, I want to meet you. I want to hear from you. If you're in outreach, I would love to sit down with you, hear you on kind of, I want to know how people are impacting, their city. And it's that thing again, I'm so open to really learning from people, wanting to know what God is doing. So I'm always intrigued by what God is doing in their city. And so if you're ever in LA, come say hi. Los Angeles, Zoe Church, come through.
So big, man. That's a big invitation, you guys. He might cook Thai food for you too. Who knows? That's so cool. Thank you for just your generous heart. Thank you for pouring into us today. And there's just been so much wisdom. I have like a whole sheet full of notes and just like little tweets that you said that have inspired me. And I know our listeners are just like really encouraged and honestly just so honored that we get to lean in and see a little of what God's doing in LA. And I believe there's big things coming. So thank you, Pastor Tommy. Go kiss that baby and hug Leah. Leah's amazing. I'm glad she told you to stay. So
Well, I appreciate you guys so much. You guys are an inspiration. We love your crew. We love Pastor Dino. You guys are incredible people. And so it's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. We will see you next time on the Serve Brew. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
See you guys.